We do have some more Hearthstone for you today. The day is not over yet, but as discussed, we do already have 2 quarterfinalists and 2 we are pretty happy with, being the 2 European casters here.
Yep, 100% win rate so far for Europe, 4-0 in match score. Americas and China just lagging a little bit behind that on 1 and 2, and it's APAC bringing up the rear with the 1 and 3 record. But those 2 names, Stan, Udachi, and Nyria, are making their way through into the top 8 elimination portion of the Winter Championship.
Yeah, this is really, really awesome for us, but just awesome matches in general. And we've got many, many more coming over the next few days. As you can see, Shiny Dachi, the winner from Group A, and Nyria, as we've just seen come off the back of his series, the winner from Group B. Sorry. So it's looking to be shaping up pretty good for our region. And we've got our next match coming up very, very soon. We've got LovelyChook versus DrJikininki. What do you think about this matchup? It's a huge difference in terms of experience, at least.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing is, you know, what kind of personality we're going to see from Dr. J in this series, because early on in his opening round, he was very, very energetic, giving signals to camera, smiling, full of life. Then it started to turn against him. Then the face turned sour. Then everything tightened up. Then it was business time. So interesting to see what kind of attitude he comes into this series with.
Yeah, let's not wait any longer. We do have the match and the players just about ready. So introducing from China, we have one of the highest earning Hearthstone players of all time. It's LovelyChook. And his opponent from America, one of the new kids on the block, it is DrJikininki.
Time! DrJikininki versus LovelyChook.
My match against Nyria went kind of how I thought it was going to go. I knew it was going to be really close from the beginning, and I was expecting it to come down to Game 7. I think maybe there was 1 or 2 different things that I could have done, but I think I played well, and I think I'm ready for my next game.
我下场比赛的对手是 DrJikininki.
My next match is against DrJikininki, who is probably the strongest player in our group. So I will go back and look at his decks and do some preparation.
So LovelyChook's kind of a dark horse. I don't know much about LovelyChook. I do think I'm going in the match really confident because I feel like Nyria is the worst lineup I played against. And I think I have a good chance against LovelyChook.
DrJikininki versus LovelyChook. Let's go!
It's been a long first day of the Winter Championship here at the Bahamas, but it's time for the last match of the day, and everything's on the line for these players. Their tournament life. This is an elimination match. One of these players will be done in the tournament after this match.
That's right, and it's always sad to see it happen, but that's the nature of tournaments. Someone's got to win, and someone's got to lose. We're trying to crown a champion after all, so we got 16 players here, and 15 of them are going to be going home at some point. But we will have our champion afterwards. These guys, I can't wait to see this match. I think that there was some great play that happened in some of their first games, but also some questionable situations. And as we take a look at their lineups, of course, Pirate Warrior has been being banned all day long, and not really much of a surprise. It is just an incredibly strong deck at the moment.
A lot of players came into this tournament expecting there to be lots of Pirate Warrior. Lots of Pirate Warrior that they could just ban right away. The few players with different strategies haven't had much success. B787, one of them, he was the first player eliminated earlier. So we'll see. It's probably going to be a trend as we move forward. But it's time for game number 1 in the final set of the day. Thanks so much for everybody that's tuned in so far. If you've been here for all 10 hours of it, 11 hours of it,
we got one more for you.
Hold in there, buddy.
Ooh. Reno Warlock versus Dragon Priest to start things off here. We saw Dr. J play some Reno Warlock earlier, and I was pretty happy with what happened there. But this is an interesting matchup for me because it comes down to a couple of different factors. Number one is that LovelyChook, despite playing a deck that typically wants to control the early game a little bit, is actually the aggressor in this matchup. If he's going to beat Dr. J, he's got to get some pressure online early and then really punish Dr. J for not having a strong start. And this is the kind of hand LovelyChook needs. This is almost exactly what he's looking for. Turn 1, 2, 3. Turn the 2-4 taunt. Turn 3, buff one of them up, get a 3-4, and then keep on trucking forward. Dr. J does have some key cards in this matchup, though. He's got Shadow Bolt to handle some of this early pressure. He's got Hellfire to clear out a board if it gets a bit weak, and he's got Twilight Drake, a card that LovelyChook won't be able to interact with very well due to the nature of his deck. So this is a really cool matchup, but this start may be too much for Dr. J.
Yeah, Dragon Priest is interesting because they play sort of overstated minions on curve that need the dragon activation. So they take control of the board really easily in the early game, but it's about holding onto that board and getting value to that board for as long as they possibly can, because if they lose it, it's really hard for them to reload. So what the Warlock's trying to do here is they're trying to remove at all costs. They're trying to go 1 for 1. They're trying to just get to those later portions of the game, because in most situations they will be able to outvalue the Dragon Priest the longer the game goes on.
And here, LovelyChook, this is the kind of turn he was hoping to avoid. Twilight Guardian would have been a fantastic pickup for him here. Bran would have been a great pickup. He's going to be very limited on this turn. But that's 2 Draconid operatives that are coming, Teach.
Yeah, a lot of times in this matchup as a Dragon Priest, you just have to not respect anything.
Oh, yeah. And that's where I've seen the most success is when this kind of situation is happening. I would love to see LovelyChook, again, just push 2 more damage. Put Dr. J to the test every single turn. If you don't have a perfect way to answer, you're going to eat some more damage, buddy. That's the way you get this job done, because he is not winning if Dr. J gets past these 2 Draconid operatives.
Throw away the RES PUCT and go to the FACE.
That's right. A very popular song that I remember as a young man.
Me too.
Yeah, this attack and heal, it is clever. Like he's hedging his bets here quite a bit, but you know, count that a couple turns down the road. If he's ever 2 damage or 1 damage off lethal, that's the attack I'm going to look at and go, well, that could have been different.
He is sort of hedging his bets around. No, around the Faceless Shambler. That's one thing that could punish him. 4 attack minions, of course, very tough for Priest to deal with. So I understand the attack, but as we mentioned earlier, no respect. You have to say, I'm gonna hope you don't have it. This is a poor matchup. I'm gonna take a risk. I'm gonna hit you in the face, force you to have it.
If he hadn't traded or attacked into that Twilight Guardian, there's a good chance that 2-6 just would have lived. It'd be a 2-6 right now, and that 2-3 would be dead instead. That would take 2 attacks from Dr. J to kill at that point. That's a lot of damage he'd buy over the course of the next couple of turns.
Now, we don't want to get hung up on that too much because we still have a lot of game left to play. But that's something to keep in mind as this game moves forward. So you got to have a game plan in mind. Sometimes you have to just say you don't have it. Call the bluff.
Hope is the key to that.
Sometimes it's not even hope. You just have to have confidence.
The more confidence you have, the less times that they will draw that card. That's I've heard that's true. Pretty poor discover from LovelyChook, and he chooses to take Dirty Rat, which I find pretty interesting because Dirty Rat not really a card that he can effectively utilize. The Twisting Nether, however, there are a few situations where Dr. J hasn't been life tapping that much. Maybe he continues to commit minions to the curve, and as LovelyChook finds at turn 8, Twisting Nether can hit and really turn the game around. So when he takes this Dirty Rat, he's looking to find something he can couple it with, and just fairly poor discovers overall. Mountain Giant won't be getting the massive discounts, so it looks like Felfire Potion to me.
Felfire Potion gives Priest a little bit of extra reach that they don't have otherwise. He could be hoping to pull out Reno and then try and end the game with, extra burn that he picks up.
Dr. J has honestly exercised some good recognition in this matchup. Oftentimes, I've seen Reno Warlock players kind of take it slow, look for value, life tap maybe a little bit too much. He's been expending his resources with no expenses spared and just taking control of the board. And he's only at 15 after all this.
Whoa!
What? Wow. That's a bold call. Shadow or Death, I think, is what's causing that.
He did have an available answer, and maybe that's what he was looking at. He's saying, a lot of things that I pull out from this Dirty Rat are going to either be answered by Shadow Word Death, or I don't really care about it.
Yeah.
Reno, he pulls that out. Yeah, it's a 4/6. Tough to deal with, but that's Reno out of his hand. He pulls out, like, Faceless Shambler. It's like, oh, that's a 1/1. Cool. Faceless Manipulator, 3/3. You know, so a lot of the things, maybe the Dirty Rat's just a genius choice from LovelyChook. Maybe he had this planned out all along.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I thought that was a Shadow Word Pain.
Sometimes.
And then when I saw it cost 3 mana, I was like, ooh, never mind. Dirty Rat's great.
I want to point out a little something, give you guys a little bit of a preview of what's to come tomorrow. Tare, player from the Americas. If you've been following the competitive scene for a long time, you know who he is. He is a big advocator of just ripping Dirty Rat. Sometimes he'll even do it just turn 2 because he feels like it. He said he learned a lot of it from a player from Australia named Mage, who likes to play Dirty Rat as sort of like a disruption tool and or like sort of a tempo disruption tool. And you know, I feel like a lot of players can learn from that. You know, learn to expand their Dirty Rat usage. And LovelyChook, I sort of like it. It's weird, but I like it.
Sometimes weird stuff just works.
Sometimes. Dr. J still playing a mana behind because of that Blast Crystal Potion. So he's unable to play Ragnaros the Fire Lord this turn. And his hand is pretty much all reactive. He didn't fit in many life taps early on in the game because of the fact that he was trying to play for board. We talked about how if Dragon Priest was at the board, it's real hard for them to reload. And since a minion was pulled out of his deck and dealt with right away, that's just another tool that he didn't have. No value from that Emperor Thorsan. Rag is stranded. Now he's at 11 health. If he taps, he makes himself vulnerable, especially since he hasn't seen that card picked up, the second card picked up from the Draconid Operative. So this is a really awkward spot for Dr. J. Kind of a little bit different from what we normally see in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm glad he's following through on the way he's been playing too. If he'd have simply passed here, the shields have been down, and LovelyChook would have capitalized on that immediately. So Dr. J continuing to take it a bit slow. And by slow, I mean continue to use all his removal spells in order just to try to get things stable. That's the position he needs to be in. Once things are stable, his cards are incredibly valuable. They will churn out constantly. They'll pay dividends, but he's got to stop the board first. LovelyChook's still got gas in the tank.
He can start playing a little bit of the value game here. He does need to keep applying the pressure. But now that he knows he has more resources than DrJikininki, he's got a mana advantage for a few more turns. He can start, you know, hedging his bets against AoE. He doesn't necessarily have to throw away all respect. He can start throwing out a few minions here and there and play a little bit of that value game. He does need to have a lot of things in his mind.
Well, I look at this 3/5 that gets played. Wondering if maybe it should have been the Blackwing Corruptor in this spot. One of the big goals for LovelyChook is every turn he sets up, he's going to want to threaten lethal on Dr. J. This play didn't quite do that with his current hand, I don't believe. Looks like he's missing 1 point of damage in this facet. Wouldn't have been consequential here. Dr. J picks up Reno Jackson. That heal to full is likely to really sway things here. LovelyChook now he's got to start pressuring. And that's when it starts playing into Dr. J's wheelhouse. Those big AoE spells all throughout his hand. He's turned all his AoE.
Dr. J showed a lot of intensity in his match against Nyria, constantly sort of staring over at the other side of that table. Looking Nyria right in the eye, trying to get a read. There it is again. He's looking for every bit of information he can. But now at this point, LovelyChook, he knows that damage that he deals is going to stick. One thing that's missing from a few players' lineups in Reno Lock, as we pointed out a few times throughout the broadcast, is that Lord Jaraxxus. Lord Jaraxxus can be a tool in multiple facets against Dragon Priest. One, if you find an empty board, slam Jaraxxus, all of a sudden you're making 6/6s every turn. Priest can really struggle to deal with it. But it can also be a little bit of extra heal. But now LovelyChook knows when he lands that face damage, it's going to stick. But it seems like he sort of changed paths a little bit. He smelled the weakness in the hand from Dr. J. Now he is going for more of a value battle.
I'm a little bit curious about the attack with Northshire Cleric in that spot. And again, this is where it starts to become difficult for LovelyChook. So it's tough to say whether or not he should be loading up the board or hanging back. My instinct says to hang back a bit. because he has to get Dr. J to use his AoE spells, clear out boards, and then reload them effectively. That's the big key, is reloading effectively. If he can't do that, he's never going to have a chance.
That's a great point. And now he puts DrJikininki in a weird spot where...
He's eyeing that Dirty Rat.
Yeah.
Dirty Rat twisting others. It's pretty good.
It's still a turn away, though. I think what was going through his mind is, can I wait a turn? Can I wait a turn to try and play Dirty Rat plus Twisting Nether?
Yeah, that would typically require him to just play another minion here. Or otherwise, LovelyChook would know what's going on at that point. If Dr. J just makes a super weak turn and passes, LovelyChook is going to be 100% positive that there's either a big Shadow Flame or a Twisting Nether available.
So LovelyChook has seen Siphon Soul, he's seen Twisting Nether, and he's seen Blast Crystal Potion. There's not much else in the deck besides Faceless Manipulator that can deal with Rag. So that's something to note.
Uh-oh. I wonder if that's a trap draw for Dr. J at this point. Shadow Word Death is a very legitimate fear at this point. It would set up a second 8/8 in play. So that's tough for LovelyChook to effectively push past. But that looks like an okay Ragnaros turn to me. I don't know, though. I mean, at this stage, value is a real thing. You mentioned that there is no Jiraxxus earlier, and that's super important because that's one of the ways that Dr. J seals this matchup up when it's all said and done. When all the resources are ground to nothing, you have a hero power that makes 6/6 minions afterwards. That's just not there. Yeah, just death and push. It's hard for Dr. J to use a Twisting Nether a big AoE spell in a spot like this. It's just going to cost him a lot. He's going to Shadow Flame away his own Mountain Giant. It's not bad, but it's not what he wants to do.
One thing that I was looking at, if LovelyChook played Ragnaros that turn and went face, with 16 damage on board, he might have been under pressure. Now, Pharron a lot of times is a great choice, just because of the fact that if Jiraxxus comes out, you have the option to get Sacrificial Pact.
He's going to go into Pharron anyway. He just wants the stats.
Sure. I mean, if you get Sacrificial Pact, you can still deal with Abyssal Enforcer.
There's just a lot of good spells in Warlock. Blast Crystal, Siphon Soul. Just good stuff.
Soulfire, Power Overwhelming can give you extra reach. Well, here's the Kazakus. This potion needs to be big. He takes 5 mana, so he's going for a little bit more of a flexible option as far as the potion goes. Doesn't want to spend a whole turn. Doesn't feel like he has the luxury of being able to spend a whole turn. And he wants to use it this turn, I believe. So it's deal 5 damage, deal 4 damage to all minions. So that's going to clear the board and leave his Mountain Giant intact.
How important is that pressure to Dr. J right now? He's starting to feel a bit of heat, clearly, with the way that potion ended up turning out. Got a big board sweep, but just a Mountain Giant. He hasn't been life-tapping that much. It's kind of scary. And now Dragonfire Potion. This is a tough card to use in this matchup.
Looking at the rest of the list here from Dr. J, I don't really see too many threats left in the deck. He has Abyssal Enforcer, a second-rate Bruiser. And that's effectively it outside
Leroy.
of this Ragnaros. Does have Leroy. Leroy's a threat in its own way.
The Ragnaros, there's a chance it's checked, but LovelyChook can't guarantee that at the moment.
He can go for Fellfire Potion to get a guaranteed clear, but he's not reloading. And it also damages himself.
He's got to go for Rag. He needs the shot.
Oh, man. This is going to be a big one. Can he hit the Rag? He does. Wow. Faith in the Ragnaros.
You know, I'm actually curious if landing the Ragnaros or landing face is better there. He's got Fellfire Potion in hand. I mean, that would have set Dr. J to 6. There's not much healing left.
That's pretty low.
It's pretty gosh darn low. Like, I'm at 6 in real life. I feel like there's not much longer for me.
Brutal.
TJ just gave me a nod. He's like, yep, you don't have much longer.
Just waiting for your Reno Jackson draw. Sekirei Bruce.
It's slim pickings.
Yeah. I mean, looking at the rest of his deck, he just has nothing left.
He just never found use out of Shadow Flame, out of Demon Wrath, out of Hellfire. Those cards have just been dead. LovelyChook, I think, he's pretty close to having this in the bag right now. In fact, does that Fellfire Potion do it? It would set Dr. J to 7. He'd go to 11 from Mistress of Mixtures.
I don't think it quite does it yet.
Pushes 3. And then he can Shadow Word Pain the Doomsayer. That's 8 from Ragnaros. Looks like lethal to me.
Is it?
Yeah.
You're right. That's it. And LovelyChook finds it. The Fellfire Potion picked up from the Draconid Operative. And Dr. J, despite his best efforts to control the board early on, is going to fall in game number 1.
Wow. Just a lot of that early curve that LovelyChook had was the catalyst to that game. That Dirty Rat dealt so much damage. It was such an important piece to that game. He spotted that with Shadow Word Death. He didn't care what came out of it. He was going to be able to use the Dirty Rat. Brilliant play.
Yeah, Dr. J unable to get it done in that last match, but he said earlier on how he was pretty confident going to his next match. He felt he played pretty well. Dr. J, he's a pretty interesting guy. He's got a lot of hobbies outside. He also has a pretty interesting job on the side, so take a look.
At nights, my part-time job is calling bingo. There are so many different types of ways you can achieve bingo, however you want to put it. Because there's your regular like straight line, there's 4 corners. They do one called the Crazy Kite. They do one the chevron, the letter X, postage stamps. Honestly, just like an infinite amount of combinations that you can think of that I've called. I get yelled at a lot. I don't typically make bad mistakes, but if I do make a mistake, everyone's looking at me with mean looks and they're all yelling at me, telling me to get down. I have nothing to do with you not winning money. That's all luck and RNG. That's what that is.
In a way, Twitch chat is like one big bingo room.
Yeah.
They're sitting there yelling at the players all day when they make mistakes.
Just got to get down, make a noble sacrifice.
Indeed.
It's the best way to do it.
Interesting job. Dr. J, we've come to get to know him a little bit over the course of last week. You know, seeing him around the resort. We had a chance to sit down and talk with him like on Monday or Tuesday, and he just really loves being here. It's one of the coolest things about having new players to the scene who haven't gotten to experience sort of these live events, especially the first time we go on the road. This is probably the best time to qualify for a seasonal championship.
Oh, yeah.
Getting to experience the Bahamas. But it's just cool to see, you know, the joy that he has for the opportunity to be here. And he told us that he's going to try his best and not take it for granted.
I don't think he is so far. I think his focus in game has been very intense, and I think he understands the gravity of the situation. These are some important these are the most important matches of Hearthstone he's played, period.
Period. This
one, Rogue versus Rogue, and this matchup can get quite explosive.
It's really volatile, to be honest. You know, a big questing or a big ban cleave early on can sometimes just seal the game right off the bat. We've seen Rogue mirrors end as early as like turn 5. And we've also seen them become a huge grind fest where both players are drawn dead for a lot of it, trade and removal back and forth. Nothing lines up, and we go to like turn 20.
Yeah, I think volatility is definitely the right word for it. LovelyChook, he's opened up, and he's got Questing Adventurer and just a ton of utility to back it up. Dr. J's got Tomb Pillager. And this is an interesting dynamic where if LovelyChook decides that he wants to make a big push, a sap is going to hurt him a ton if he invests into that Questing Adventurer. And that's exactly what Dr. J picks up this turn as a sap. Tomb Pillager, however, is a much harder minion to interact with profitably. Even if it gets eviscerated in a spot like this, still providing a coin back to Dr. J. Maybe allows him to coin out Azure Drake or save it for an auctioneer. And now LovelyChook picks up his own Tomb Pillager. This game, it's gonna boil down to threat count, I think, and who can stick the first one to the board, start landing some damage.
going to come down to who pillages tombs the best.
Right now, LovelyChook, a heavy investment into this questing adventurer. Not unwise. You need to check your opponent and make them have answers for it. Dr. J's passed that first test. But how does he do it? Would he rather have the Swashbuckler? Would he rather get the Tomb Pillager? Expend the prep?
Thank you.
He wants Tomb Pillager bad. I don't blame him.
He's going for the tempo. The cool thing about Rogue is that at a lot of points in the game, every single draw can completely change the landscape of the board. You have a handful of spells, all of a sudden you draw a Van Cleef or a questing adventurer or a Gadgetzan Auctioneer. You go from an unfavorable position to an incredibly favorable position. There's not a lot of matchups that have that big of a swing potential, and LovelyChook's like, you know what?
Round two.
I'm throwing this bad boy out there again. Now, DrJikininki still has patches left in his deck. So he can deal with this questing adventurer with Swashbuckler, Backstab, Dagger Hit, and Patches. Van of Knives also can be used to kill it.
He does have the option of Cold Blood as well. That will cut quite a bit into his damage, but again, I feel like it's the last threat that makes a big difference in this matchup. I think I'm in favor of the draw here.
Yeah,
I think he needs to find another threat.
Patient Assassin is a threat.
Not in a traditional sense.
No.
1/1 stealth minion that will kill anything it touches. Doesn't matter how big it is. It could be a mountain giant with 700,000 health. Patient Assassin takes him out in one blow.
Not bad.
This is
Conceal.
not good for Dr. J. So the first minion connection looks like it's going to go over to LovelyChook unless Dr. J wants to eviscerate here.
I doubt it. He's got Patient Assassin lined up. So he can use that to kill off Tomb Pillager next turn. Or he could, if a bigger threat is played, use the eviscerate for Tomb Pillager, and then Patient Assassin, whatever played. So just holding on to a little bit of flexibility. He's okay with taking the extra 5 in order to set up that turn. And this is one of those hands that I was talking about from both players. When they're just sort of going threat for threat, everything's being removed off the board. A lot of resources are being spent towards taking hold of the board. Then all of a sudden we get into some interesting scenarios where nobody really has the lead. And we can see there LovelyChook raised his hand. Looks like we have a little bit of technical difficulties here. We'll try and get in as quick as possible. But it looks like the players are still playing. It looks like they weren't affected, or at least LovelyChook was only affected momentarily. So Admirable, it's time once again.
The super exclusive over-the-shoulder look-in. Game 2 of our final match.
Right now, we're taking a look at the perspective of LovelyChook over his shoulder.
Dr. J drew an Auctioneer. TJ, that is huge.
You can just watch as the fear is replicated from your games on ladder, where you see the Rogue draw the Gadgetzan Auctioneer off the top, and you're just hoping that he doesn't have spells to keep following it up.
Dr. J Cold Blood on his Patient Assassin, pushed 5 damage onto LovelyChook there, and just conceals it. He says, I'm not going to kill a minion with this thing. I'm going to get in there for 5. You deal with it.
Yeah, I really like this play from DrJikininki. We do have word that one of the cards drawn from DrJikininki that turn was a Leroy Jenkins. So it makes sense with this line of play to preserve that 5 damage, because 9 damage on the board, 10 from the dagger, 6 from the Leroy. All of a sudden he has 16 damage. If he can find just a little bit more burn, he's going to be able to close out the game pretty quickly. And we can see from LovelyChook's perspective that he did not play a minion that turn. Another dead draw for him. And that's one of the scariest situations that you could be in. Taking a look, he's got Sousy, Deckhand, Cold Blood.
Gosh.
Edwin,
That is game over.
Dramatic zoom!
There is no way that LovelyChook lives through that turn. That is pure insanity. Brought it back. Dr. J ties it up 1 apiece. The Rogue Mirror is a big one to win.
Gadgetzan Auctioneer, one of the things I said before, every single draw at those stages of the game can completely change the landscape. It felt like LovelyChook had the minion advantage, but then that Gadgetzan Auctioneer changed everything, and Dr. J ties up the series 1-1.
Yeah, you said volatility, and that's exactly what that was. That moment of patience where Dr. J played patience as, said, you know, I'll just take this 5 damage, I'll hang on to Eviscerate, get some more flexibility from it. Hits a jackpot draw. That's a bingo.
One thing to note for these players, too, I mean, are they starting to feel some fatigue? It's starting to get late in the day. These guys have been up for 14 hours at this point. They had a game earlier on in the day. They've been sitting around, waiting in the player area, prepping, watching the other matches. And these guys lost their first round, so they might have been sulking over their mistakes, trying to reset their mind. They could be getting tired.
It's a long day. Fatigue is a very real thing. You don't just fatigue when you have no more cards left to draw. Sitting around all day and thinking about the match, all that anticipation. You're at a different place. You're not at home, just being comfortable. It weighs on you.
It definitely does.
I will say, though, Dr. J looks about the same as he did in the first match of the day.
He's a pretty calm guy. He just seems calm, which is pretty crazy to think that this guy, this is his first sort of major tournament outside of the playoffs.
Yeah, for LovelyChook, I mean, this is just another day at the office for him.
Yeah, one of the highest earning players in the history of Hearthstone to date. He's been around the block a few times. Not in his Ferrari, on foot.
Yeah, I mean, when he won the tournament for the Ferrari, he had the option, money or Ferrari. Give me the money.
Hard to drive a Ferrari in the Bahamas. You got to get it here first. It's just foreshadowing. It's like, I'm going to the Bahamas.
Now, he did say if he won the next one, he'd probably take the Ferrari.
How often is that opportunity going to come around? Who knows?
Game 3, getting ready. God, elimination matches are tough. You know that?
I didn't, but now I do.
I mean, day 1, you spent the whole season getting to this point. Drop your first match. Now what? You have to win. You don't have an option.
But the one thing, you keep winning, you make it out of your group, all of a sudden everything's reset, everybody is on even footing going into the quarterfinals. You just have to keep looking ahead, one game at a time. And that's how both these guys are taking it. It's going to be Rogue for LovelyChook once again. DrJikininki is going to be on the Shaman.
This matchup's got some interesting ticks to it, which is number 1, Dr. J has some opportunities to really get away with some shenanigans. Anytime he's able to stick a Manatide Totem for more than a turn, that's a panic sign for LovelyChook. He's got some great removal options with Lightning Bolt, with Hex, but he's got a lot of stuff to worry about. Tomb Pillager, a prime target. Questing Adventurer, a prime target. Big Edwin Banquet, a prime target. His removal is working overtime in this matchup. Frankly, there's just not enough of it for him. So at every step of the way, he's got to find a way to get minions on board that can act in place of things like Lightning Bolt, of things like Hex. That starts with Manatide Totem here to try to pick up some extra answers. But I'm looking at these hands right now, TJ. Dr. J is going to have a tough time.
He really is.
Yeah, important to note, there's actually no patches in LovelyChook's deck. He's actually opted to go with Beneath the Grounds as his major tech for Reno decks and Shaku the Collector. So not trying to get those that little bit of extra damage with patches and instead trying to hard focus on the control builds.
It sort of opens up 2 spots for him as well. because we've seen most of the players that bring patches and Rogue in this tournament, which a lot of players that brought Rogue also bring a South Sea deckhand, which sort of gives you that extra chance on turn 1 to draw a Pirate that's not patches to pull it out of your deck. So it sort of opens up 2 slots for him in that regard. Swashbuckler is sort of a necessary choice nowadays to get that 1-drop on board. Otherwise, Rogue just misses 1 and they dagger up on 2 every game.
Yeah. Really important facet. Well, the overload's a bit painful here for Dr. J. So the Lightning Bolt definitely is in order if that's the case. Now he's got 2 different forests he's got option for. He's got Hex in case something crazy happened. But that Auctioneer could be awfully painful for Dr. J.
Yeah, he's already got the counterfeit coin in hand. If he can pick up a Conceal!
Oh my. That is also a bingo.
Dr. J, even though he's probably not called that at his bingo job, he's probably called it in Hearthstone quite a bit.
Yeah.
Sitting at home, sees the Gadget's hand on 6 into the counterfeit coin Conceal, and he slowly whimpers to himself, bingo.
It's a beautiful piece of writing. I saw TJ working on something backstage. I wasn't sure what it was, and now I know exactly what it was. It's poetry.
Bingo poetry.
Now, stealth minions with taunt don't get attacked. That is something interesting to note.
It's too bad we don't have the over-the-shoulder look, or else we'd see the warning pop up on screen. Unfortunate. We know you guys love it, but we can't have it all the time.
Rep drawn for LovelyChook. This is insane. Dr. J, he's in trouble, and that's an understatement.
Yeah, even though putting Aya back in the hand gives him the battle cry once again, which can keep those Jades rolling, Dr. J just doesn't have enough time, it feels, to get to the point where playing Aya is going to allow him to survive.
This kind of sounded like Arnold there for a minute.
Aya.
He doesn't have enough time. He really doesn't. I mean, the cards keep coming and they don't stop coming.
Edwin Van Cleef.
And this is the 2-pronged attack that really overloads Dr. J and puts him on that back foot. Edwin Van Cleef's land, 8-4 Auctioneers on board. He has to deal with both of these this turn. And if he deals with both, that just gives LovelyChook initiative, and he just drew so many cards.
2-pronged attack with Leroy following it up on the rear flank. You can't lose.
And Mistcaller actually is pretty savage of a pickup from Swashbuckler. It gives every minion in your hand and in your deck +1/+1. And it's a 4/4.
Sort of an interesting card that a lot of players, when they saw it revealed, were like, wow, that card is insane. Hasn't seen much play in Shaman. But when you get it by accident for free,
it still stays in hand, and Azure Drakes take precedent.
Oh, man. Oh, there's a Beneath the Ground. So even though this is not a Reno deck, and Beneath the Ground's, you know, it's not gonna disrupt things like Kazakus and Reno, it's still, if you just have the mana to expend anyway, those Nerubians, they can feel good.
Now there's no more removal left. This is getting close to the lightning storm or bust moment for Dr. J. Now, his Shaman deck is built a lot differently than some of the other mid-range decks that we've observed. He's got 2 Maelstrom Portals. He's got 2 Lightning Storms. So that gives him that little bit extra, but Maelstrom Portal wasn't what he was looking for. This is going to have to be gas.
It will allow him to fight back a little bit on this board. It's not quite as impactful as Lightning Storm.
It's taunting him.
Shaku the Collector, one of the cards we mentioned as sort of a replacement for a few cards of the Pirate package. Shaku didn't see much play early on in the Mean Streets of Gadgets in meta, but it's definitely picked up steam as the tournament scene has gone on. Seeing a lot of play in playoffs in the aggro rogue, which sort of had a brief moment of popularity and now has sort of toned back down a little bit. We're going to see a lot of aggro-ish rogues tomorrow in Group C and D. A lot of water rogues. Those of you out there who are big Murloc fans.
3-4 Shaku. This card just provides a really tough objective for your opponent sometimes. If you can land it early on and you're able to offset the minions they play, your opponent looks at Shaku and goes, man, can I afford to just give him an extra card every turn? It often forces their hand, and that's one of the reasons it was so popular in the aggro decks is leading into your following turn. If your opponent just had to kill one of your minions, sometimes you're open for Cold Blood. Maybe it made your Tomb Pillager stick. And it replaced itself on the attack. Just a honestly really underrated card. And when it found its home, it was just brilliant.
Definitely an exciting card to watch as well. Because it can provide crazy moments as early as turn 3. And now, no removal for Dr. J. He's got to find the best combination of minions that's going to help him fight back on the board.
Now, keep in mind, Mistcaller gives all minions in hand and deck +1/+1. So that's a 7/3 Leroy. It means that Questing Adventurers are base 3/3. It means Saucy Deckhand is base 3/2. Dr. J is going to have a tough time fighting back if this is, in fact, a value battle for him.
He finds sort of the most amount of power he can put out with minions on this turn. Also gets the heal from the Junior Water Speaker. But is that enough?
Well, that's a dead draw for LovelyChook.
So he's got 7 on board, 7 from Leroy. That's
Count 14.
15 with a dagger hit.
I'm sapping. I'm going to start with Sap. Face with Shaku. If he picks up the right card, game over.
So many options.
He's going for it.
Needs some burn. Lava Burst.
Jade Lightning.
What does he get? Lotus Illusionist.
4 mana, 3/5. Whenever it attacks, or is it after it attacks? There we go.
After it attacks the hero.
Turns into a random 6-cost minion. That's an exciting card to watch. Very first time I played it, it immediately turned into big-time Racketeer. I just had a 1/1 all of a sudden.
That's the risk you take. So there's the Beneath the Ground. It's going to be a big deal if these Nerubians come out on the board, because Dr. J's already been struggling to come back on the board. And if he has to deal with another 4/4, he's going to be hard-pressed to find a way out of this game. So we'll see beginning of the turn. Is it an ambush? There it is!
Wow. First card drawn. But he does pick up a second thing from below, so Dr. J's turn here is actually pretty massive. Able to get another totem out, 10 power and 10 health worth of taunts.
He can also brand plus Jinyu Water Speaker.
We could play just the Aya too. I mean,
yeah,
he didn't die last turn, and he was at a relatively safe life total. This turn he gets to cut into the damage just a tiny bit. He has an extra taunt in play. I like the Mana Tide Totem.
Yeah, there's no saps left. The first sap was on the Aya, the second sap was on the thing from below that was played last turn. So he can be pretty confident that these thing from belows are going to stick.
Yeah.
If this Aya can start getting in damage, he doesn't have Bloodlust in the deck. Keep that in mind. But if this Aya starts getting in damage, and LovelyChook draws dead another turn.
I like the Aya a lot too. Oh gosh, just so much board presence. This is that massive swing turn this deck can provide, and this is where its strength shines, is in the development turns like this. They're not the easiest to get to, but if you get there, it's very difficult to lose.
The Great Wall of Blue.
What gets LovelyChook out of this?
Well, it's going to have to come from the Shaku. Or this Lotus Illusionist.
There is actually some very minuscule chances of lethal here. Backstab, Shaku runs in, takes out a thing from below. So he gets Lava Burst in that instance. Lava Burst the other 5/5. Lotus goes face. Drops him to 12. Reckless Rocketeer. 5 power charge in that instance. It's very minuscule. But it's Leroy with no drawback right now.
Nice sequencing. This sort of has to be a miracle play. What's Shaku going to pick up? Halazil the Ascended. Not what he was looking for, but let's see what the 6-drop is.
It's not charged. Wind up Burglebot. If it attacks a minion, kills it, and lives, LovelyChook's going to draw a card. That's what that one does. But I got a feeling none of these things are living.
Admirable, our arena prowess is really getting tested today. So far, we're 4 for 4.
High five.
So there's 9, 12 damage being represented on board. Still no spells from DrJikininki.
It's a heal for 12, though. I mean, that's basically a Reno in this spot.
He will be able to clear much, but not all of it.
I don't think he's caring much about Halazil right now. He's at 17.
Yeah,
LovelyChook's got one card. He's got a full board of minions. Dr. J, I think, got this one locked up.
yeah.
LovelyChook needed some heat. Dr. J had enough early removal. That Questing Adventurer that LovelyChook went for early on ran directly into Lightning Bolt. Now there's just nothing left.
He just really doesn't have much damage left in his deck, period. He can heal for 4.
I wonder.
Goes up to 18. There's 5 plus 9 damage on the board.
He's got 10 mana, and he can't spend any of it.
Well, he could spend 2 of it for the dagger. He could also spend 2 of it for the eviscerate. It does not heal. Or he can concede, and that's what he does. Dr. J takes game number 3, and that's a lead for him in the series. Picking up a win with the Shaman.
What a colossal win this would be for Dr. J. Taking out LovelyChook, one of the most winning players of all time.
Be a tough blow to China as well to have one of the players, one of their most successful players, get eliminated this early on in the tournament. A player that a lot of the other Chinese players sort of look up to. I mean, talking to all the Chinese players this week was kind of funny because each one individually sort of respected a different player. It's sort of like the circle of trust that the Chinese players have with each other. LovelyChook, like, favored Omega Zero favored LVGE. LVGE was like, well, Xhope's the player to beat, and then Xhope's like, LovelyChook, he's got it. Who do we root for? Who knows?
All of them.
But yeah, one thing's for certain is they're probably all watching right now, hoping LovelyChook takes the series, just to sort of, give a little proof to their region. And Dr. J, he's grooving. He's getting in the zone.
Just trying to relax a bit. Remind yourself to stay calm. We saw some incredibly fast play today, namely in the Stanudachi versus Frozen match. They were at a blistering pace. It was almost like they weren't even thinking about their turns. They just knew what to do already. Dr. J, I think when he speeds up a little bit, he's going to overlook some stuff. I don't think he has quite the same number of reps of practice that some of these other guys have. But he's been playing well. I like what he's been doing so far. That is not a good hand for the Priest versus Rogue matchup, though, TJ. He needs to get some presence online.
Whereas LovelyChook has got Swashbucklers early on. He's got Azure Drake, which may seem like it's a little bit far off, but it's one of the cards that can really help get things.
Twilight, what? He's got a dragon in hand. Dragon Rogue.
Kibler's probably tried it.
I don't even know what's going on anymore.
Last game, there was Shaman cards on the board. This game's going to be Priest cards on the board.
Second coin. Oh my.
Shadow Fiend could actually have a pretty big impact.
That's an interesting card. Every time you draw a card, its cost is reduced by 1.
5 for 5.
But LovelyChook's got to face down this Technician first. This is honestly such a strong minion versus Rogue. Just not really effectively dealt with.
Yeah,
Old blood expended.
5 health on turn 3. You usually have to expend a little bit more resources than you're comfortable with. In this case, it's a cold blood. Sometimes it's a card plus an eviscerate and a dagger hit.
Dr. J is so close to turning the corner. And this is why Azure Drake is such a big deal. Shadowward Pain on this Shadow Fiend to take it out. The damage on board fairly nominal, but he doesn't have a strong way to interact with Azure Drake. That means LovelyChook's going to head into his turn with that active. The spell damage matters a ton when you're talking about Dr. J and just having very health-efficient minions. Suddenly, they're not nearly as health-efficient. But LovelyChook's hand is fairly weak. It can keep the board clean for a while, but the rest of these minions have to deliver the rest of that damage. And I'll tell you what, Draconid Operative, not really the kind of minion you want to sap that badly. However, it might just be enough to get the job done.
Keep the cleave.
He's got a lot of great spells in hand to combo it with.
Say it with me, Chad. Keep the cleave. Keep the. All right. He did it!
Second Azure Drake.
Prep Eviscerate is a clean kill.
Dragonfire Potion is the card in Dr. J's deck that normally is used to sweep out positions. Azure Drake is immune to Dragonfire Potion, and Dr. J has no other ways to interact with that card. He is going to die to these Azure Drakes.
LovelyChook does have the spells to sort of back up these Azure Drakes to protect them for as long as he can. This turn with Eviscerate, with Prep Eviscerate, he's got a clean kill onto the Draconid Operative. Maybe he's thinking about whether or not he could use Backstab and trade in
the Whelp, but the Whelp hasn't been dealt with, and he's keep clocking away. That investment of the Eviscerate is likely to pay dividends.
So he's got 11 damage on board. 12 with Dagger up next turn. If he can keep these guys rolling, Dr. J is in serious trouble.
Yep.
These backstabs are 4 damage each, which means Blackwing Corruptor is just going to get killed outright. He's going to throw a powered shield in it, but LovelyChook's happy to throw in a dagger hit and a 1-1 into this.
Oh, and just in time to mock him, the Dragonfire Potions shows up.
Just not going to get anything done in this game.
Azure Drake has been such a powerful card throughout all of Standard. This tournament is basically its last hurrah. Afterwards, Hall of Fame. Well deserved.
Azure Drake, we salute you.
No way to interact with these Azure Drakes. LovelyChook's going to get 8 more damage out of these with Dr. J at 10.
You wish to live forever.
210 Brand's pretty scary. A point of damage ends the game there for LovelyChook. Doesn't find it.
But he's got Conceal.
He's got Conceal. He's got Sap. He can just go face, set Dr. J to 1, Conceal, and say, go.
Yeah. I'm curious if there's a combination of Priest cards at this point that, for 8 mana, that would actually kill LovelyChook. Like, if he had 2 Mind Blasts, he's still not on lethal. Embrace the Shadows. And okay, yeah. That would be the one. It's not happening, is the long story short. LovelyChook sealed this game. And this is the way that Dragon Priest versus Rogue often goes. It's hard for Dr. J to really get a bunch of development and punish what LovelyChook is doing. Azure Drake, one of the most effective cards, and Dr. J's hand opened up with double Shadow Word Death. Never even saw a target.
Dr. J taking his time. A lot of things going through his head right now. You know, he's thinking of, what could I have done better? What am I going to play the next match? Trying to reset his mind. Not let that affect him too much, because that was incredibly one-sided. If you don't get off to a blistering start as Priest, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a way to win that matchup, especially with 2 Azure Drakes on the board. And LovelyChook ties up the series 2-2. It's down to a best of 3, essentially, for these players' tournament life.
That's one of the reasons Rogue has been so popular over this tournament. You look at Dragon Priest, it picked up a lot of steam with the aggressive decks dying down a tad. It punishes decks like Dragon Priest. It punishes decks like Druid. It's just such a good deck right now, and Auctioneer always gives you that power to, if you make it to that turn and have a lot of spells to go with it, give you almost an insurmountable advantage if you're at all stable.
Yeah, Miracle Rogue is tied for the 3rd most represented archetype here, tied with Dragon Priest, with 10 out of the 16 players bringing it. If you can expect a lot of Pyro Warrior and you're expecting to ban Pyro Warrior, all of a sudden Rogue's value goes up tremendously in these best-of-7 Conquest matches. So no surprise that they're having a lot of success with it, and now we're seeing a lot of Rogue games. As you can see, the players, we're just getting something fixed up a little here, so we'll get into game number 5 in just a few moments. But talking about LovelyChook a little bit more, just won game number 4 in that series, tied it up 2-2. LovelyChook, of course, turned down a Ferrari to get money. A little bit of swag there. Also one of the most earningest players in the history of Hearthstone. Let's go ahead and get to know LovelyChook just a little bit more.
就是第一届的那个
I won the 2016 China versus EU tournament, and the top prize was a Ferrari.
因为我没有驾照嘛，
I'm sorry I can't share the experience of what it's like to drive it because I chose the prize money. I don't have a driver's license.
就直接选择钱了。因为我听说那个法拉利的
I chose the prize money in 1 second because I heard the maintenance fee was really expensive.
没有，我准备今年
I don't have any regrets, but if this year they have a Ferrari as well, I will choose the Ferrari.
有的。
But at least I have a picture to remember it by.
And there's LovelyChook. You got to respect that decision. It took him 1 second to make the decision.
About the amount of time it takes him to play Miracle Rogue.
It seems like it. But let's go ahead and take a look as we're waiting to get into game number 5 at the bracket for Group B. Nyria joins Stanudachi in the quarterfinals as the winner in Group B. Palmblatt is waiting for the winner of this elimination match. That decider will be played on Saturday immediately before the quarterfinal matchups. Both China and America still looking to get a player into the quarterfinals, as well as Asia Pacific. While Europe, they're sitting pretty. Won both groups so far, 100%.
They continue to dominate in their matches. There, you can see it, Stanudachi versus Frozen, probably one of the quickest sets that I've seen ever take place with their pace of play. And Frozen, he's waiting to battle X-Hope for that next spot there. And as you mentioned, America's, China, Asia Pacific still hunting for a player in the top 8. That's tough.
Well,
we got to put some through. Someone's got to get them through. I mean, there's only 4 Europeans
in the whole thing.
We can't just take the whole top 8. Now, top 4, different
Luckily
story.
for us. Yeah.
Different story.
Again, you know, for those of you who may not have tuned in at the beginning of the broadcast or when we've brought it up, there is a chance with how the brackets play out that we could see 4 European players make it through to the Hearthstone World Championship through the Winter Championship here.
That's one of the most exciting facets to me is which region is going to dominate throughout the year. There's 2 more championships that happen. Still spring, still summer. If they put traders through, I mean, can they continue to dominate all year?
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and take a look now at when we'll be seeing those quarterfinals. There's the Group A, Group B winners, Stanudachi and Nyria, 4-0 for Europe so far in the tournament. Tomorrow we'll get to see world champion Pavel fight up in his group to see if he can continue the crazy amount of success that he's had, not only at the World Championship, but even since then. Pavel has been on fire. He's been traveling the world, enjoying himself, and winning some Hearthstone.
Just a cool guy.
As a world champion should do.
Indeed.
We've yet to see a world champion really like follow it up in the year after they win and have a lot of success. You know,
Firebat had an amazing year the year after he won the World Championship. He was the first player to defend back-to-back offline series titles. He had a strong run through Americas where he was 1 match off of making it to the championship that year, where his friend and practice partner Purple won the Americas Championship.
But he didn't make it back.
He didn't. We haven't seen the world champion return to the World Championships yet. I think it's crazy that Pavel has an opportunity after his first championship event leading into the season.
Yeah, even Artosis, the champion of 2013, wasn't able to replicate his success at all.
That exhibition championships. That's beautiful. Hey, that's 2 for North America in the Americas.
We'll take it.
Yeah, we're tied with Europe.
We'll take it.
And you're seeing a very different side of him during the competition, completely composed, 100% focused. But you get this guy on the dance floor, and suddenly he's a beast.
Yeah. He'll come to you with his famous pickup line. You ever play bingo?
He's yet to say that to me.
Surprised. I'm real surprised.
Same.
Well, we should be moments away from jumping into game number 5 here as the players set up. Everything seems to be okay on our end, and I can see the players queued up. Let's get into it. Who's going to pull ahead in this series? Is it Dr. J, or is it going to be LovelyChook? Dragon Priest versus Druid is going to be the matchup. Let's get into it.
I've been a big proponent of Druid in this matchup, and I'll continue to say it. In the hands of a very skilled player, they know the matchup, and I think they've got the edge. The idea here is that Dr. J is using such health-efficient early minions that he's able to take the board and push a lot of damage early on. The presence that LovelyChook's Druid is going to put on board early on is typically going to be fairly small, negligible a lot of times. That just gives Dr. J free reign to push damage. The Defender of Argus is a big facet of that as well. Getting those extra buffs on a wide board is going to make it harder for LovelyChook to actually clear what's going on, because his removal it's fairly light on damage. It's Wrath for 3, it's Swipe for 4, it's Feral Rage for 4. Nothing really hits that 6 mark very well. So if Dr. J is able to establish a strong board position, that's where he can run away with it. LovelyChook typically is looking for ramp spells in the beginning. Wild Growth, Jade Blossom. Innervate certainly helps, but that's a one-shot mana ramp. He's got to find the right moment to use that, and it looks like he's going for it right away.
And if that hits a Shadow Word Pain, that is so many resources used trying to get this Fandral out and run it on the board.
Wrong one. That's a Shadow Word Death. That's only 5 or more. And this has got to make Dr. J nervous. Anytime Fandral sticks to the board, you have that moment of panic. Please don't have Wrath. Please don't have Nourish.
Must consider.
He has no way to deal with this. And it doesn't look like one's showing up for quite a while.
One thing he can do is play Blackwing Technician at 3-5. It's going to be hard for LovelyChook, even with those minions, to deal with it. But it looks like DrJikininki is going for Nether Spite Historian here.
This is an interesting spot. I never blame someone for going for the Operative. But it looks like he's going to lose the early board. So what is the game plan if he loses the early board? How does he reestablish himself and take the lead? Is it just strictly minion pressure at this point? Just start playing guys and hope they get there?
Well, Shadow Word Pain's picked up now. Dr. J, he was like calling LovelyChook's bluff. He's like, you don't have any Fandral cards. I'm calling you out. I'm going to play this game slow. I'm going to play my game. He picks up Shadow Word Pain, so I guess it doesn't matter in the end anyway. But he doesn't have the board at the moment.
Yeah, he does have Coin Draken at Operative or Blackwing Corruptor. I imagine Operative is the take here. Just getting the extra health on board is so much more important than the tempo at this point. Again, LovelyChook's damage in the early game is often negligible. It doesn't really matter that much. What starts to matter is when he's taking over the board. Dr. J has to set up proactively against that.
Picking up more Jade cards, which means she's going to get those Jades rolling. Going to be a 2-2. Jade Spirit's going to be a 3-3.
Super important to get those rolling. If LovelyChook doesn't have the early Jade, it means that when you start hitting the mid-late stages, they're just not impactful. They'll continue to be ignored. They're starting to get a little bit big, though.
Just a little bit. Holy Nova an option here to clean up much of the board and keep this Draconid Operative healthy.
I'm looking at that Defender of Argus.
Defender of Argus, also an option with Northshire Cleric. And it provides a clean trade. How much does he value that Northshire Cleric, though? Does he feel like he needs that for draw? He's got a pretty wide hand at the moment. He's got a lot of value already sitting in there.
I think I would tend to go for the 2-4 in this position. Just try to occupy as many resources as possible. Your opponent is going to have to make a decision on where they split this damage.
And Defender of Argus, if you lose control of the board, it can be a dead card in your hand. So any opportunity that you have to use that bad boy.
Yeah. It's pretty solid. Boulder Fist Operative. And there's no gas with that Auctioneer right now. That Auctioneer, it could be a long way off from finding value. This is another thing that's important to LovelyChook's deck. He's got to find card draw at some point. If he just simply runs out of options, well, then what?
He can clear the board here, with the only resources being spent, the swipe and a 2/2 on the board. But he's actually going to continue to ramp up these Jades and play the mana-efficient game, hold on to the swipe.
Wow, this is interesting. He chooses to pay the life here to preserve the 2/1 body. I think that's smart because Dr. J doesn't really have a super strong way to interact with 1 health minions unless there's a great attack on board. In this spot, Dr. J it's hard for him to take advantage of either the damage that LovelyChook's taking or the weak minions that are out there. This is where it's going to start to turn into tempo play for him. And he's going to hope that he can drag this game out to a safe position and then rely on the value that he gets from Draconid Operative, from the Azure Drakes he'll draw, the health buffs on Cabal Talon Priest. That's the position he's moving in on.
He needs more cards to combo with this Gadgetzan Auctioneer.
Well, you know, something else to know is there's actually no dragon in hand yet for Dr. J. So that Operative is, it's stranded until he picks up another dragon. So that does hurt his hand quite a bit, but right away. This is a great turn for Operative, I think.
5/6 on the board. You talked about how that 6 health threshold is pretty tough for the Druid to get to, especially without any resources in hand.
Yeah, swipe. I mean, there's a swipe down now. There's a Feral Rage down.
He could go wide a little bit and go with Blackwing Technician plus Cabal Talon Priest. I don't mind that at all.
It's actually more stats on board than the Draconid Operative would be.
Yeah, and next turn he has flexibility with Draconid Operative plus a 3-drop. Aya Blackpaw is pretty good. Other than, you know, a Nourish, something to get deeper into his deck.
It's ramping the Jades, but LovelyChook is right now living at the mercy of his deck. Dr. J can actually clear out most of this board position on the following turn and get himself some good development. And that's why LovelyChook's trading here. He's trying to cut into that potential right away. Feels if he buys enough time and he gets the right spells that the Auctioneer can carry him through this. But Dr. J's hand is gas.
Picks up another Cabal Talon Priest.
Bran. Ooh. There's swipe as well, though. This is a really interesting moment for Dr. J right here. Bran is a card that couples with almost every single minion in the deck. But swipe gives Dr. J access to something that he just doesn't have. Direct, immediate damage.
Next turn he can make a 2/10 Bran if he wants to.
Oh my.
Well, it's time to go. No real other option here. Another Living Roots, but most likely going to see Jade Blossom here plus a trade on the 4/4. And can't imagine wow, he is.
Oh.
He's really foregoing board development to try and pick up another spell.
This is really interesting to me. I actually like this from LovelyChook
He's
because
protecting the gadget.
yeah, because either Blackwing Corruptor or Holy Nova would clear out this Gadgetzan Auctioneer at this point, and it's a tough thing for him to deal with. I love this setup a lot. This is brilliant.
Yeah, Dr. J is going to have a tough time dealing with this Gadgetzan Auctioneer. Oh, nope, Feral Rage. He would have had a tough time. But Feral Rage coming out. Dr. J looks like he might be pulling ahead unless LovelyChook can pick up a bunch of resources. Dr. J knows that he's in a tough group. LovelyChook's just an opponent that he has to get over. We talked to him a little bit about it. Let's take a look.
I think the biggest weakness right now is the group I got put in. I think the group is extremely talented. I think the group is extremely strong. And I think if I can get out of this group and then make it to top 8 it may actually be easier for my lineup to do well in top 8 than to do in this group stage.
I agree with his sentiment there. But this game is looking also really tough. That's a lot of power LovelyChook just added to the board. And Gadgetzin Auctioneer requires attention. Is this push going to be enough from Dr. J? I don't think it is. There's more card draw. There's more ways to kill. But again, the health-efficient minions are a little bit annoying here for LovelyChook. That brand is sticking around for another turn or so.
But with how much cards in his hand, you know, is it really that big of a deal?
I'm just assuming Dr. J is going to draw a dragon, because if he doesn't do that, he doesn't have a chance. He's going to have to get through the behemoth somehow.
Yeah, LovelyChook just using these Wraths as a way to get a little bit deeper into his deck. Jades are now at 8-8.
Yeah, I think this is too much. LovelyChook has just been safe the entire game. His 7 damage is going to be largely inconsequential, and you know he's threatening to crack back for 21. So board's got to get attention. Yeah, that's it. Jade Druid, am I right?
Am I right? You're right.
If you do not pressure Jade Druid, they are so strong. You have to keep this deck under heat.
They'll beat you every time, and LovelyChook does just that. Wins the game, goes on a match point, which means DrJikininki is fighting for his life. Needs to win 2 in a row if he wants to take down LovelyChook and move on to the decider match of Group B.
His first Hearthstone Championship Tour performance. Wins America's Championship. Now in the Bahamas. Is this where it ends? I mean, is this? I don't think that this is what he envisioned.
No.
At all.
No.
He's got to win 2 straight, or that's it.
But he can't really think about that. He's got to take it one match or one game at a time in this match. He's got to have his sights set on winning this next game. He gets over that hump, he's got to have his sights set on winning the game after that. And LovelyChook can't get ahead of himself. He can't say, you know what, I have the lead. I'm just going to coast to a victory. I'm already thinking about the decider match. No. Slow down, buddy. But we're going to get into it. Game number 6. Will LovelyChook close it out and eliminate Dr. J from the tournament? Or can the Dragon Priest prevail? It's Reno Mage versus Dragon Priest.
And a couple of interesting cards in LovelyChook's Reno Mage that you don't always see, and frankly, sometimes are fairly rare. And the big one that stands out to me is Kabbalist Tome. If you ever talk to Sottle about this card, it's one of his favorites. He loves to talk about Kabbalist Tome. In this matchup, if LovelyChook is at all in a safe position, that is so many extra cards he gets.
But how often is he going to be in a safe position against a deck that gets the ball rolling?
That's a good question, because one of the weaknesses of Reno Mage just happens to be Dragon Priest. The health-efficient minions line up so well versus the kinds of removal Mage has. You look at Frostbolt, 2 mana, 3 damage. You look at Firebolt, 4 mana, 6 damage. These do not operate well with what DrJikininki is doing. Every single minion operates above that health curve, which means they stick around through AoE. The spells, they're on a 1-for-1 basis, and sometimes require more attention than as well. Minion attack and hero power just occupies a lot of LovelyChook's resources. And if he can't get control of that, he gets chipped away turn after turn.
That's exactly what we're seeing. Takes Alex Straza from the Netherspite Historian Choice.
Yeah, that's a nod to Reno Jackson. One of the ways that you can follow up on Reno Jackson is simply to have Alex Straza. They set themselves to 30, you immediately set them to 15. If you have board presence after that, they're usually in a heap of trouble. However, we're a long ways off of that happening. So this is an insurance plan from DrJikininki. He felt the other ones just weren't going to provide, and LovelyChook still no development, but he finds Kazakus.
Kazakus, one of the ways that you can gain back tempo in this matchup. If you can get the 5-mana potion, deal 4 damage AoE, and the board is still under that health threshold, he might be able to claw back. And
turn 4.
That is a dead turn. Oh, man.
LovelyChook's got 10 cards in hand. So if he plays Kazakus, he's got to burn the coin.
Yeah, is that... I mean, that could be a big deal. That coin can really interrupt his turns. I mean, maybe he just plays Water Elemental this turn, tries to roll into Emperor Thorsan, and go from there.
But now Dr. J's got Draconid Operative. And look at how much damage has just been dealt with these little guys. 6 more coming through. And the board's not checked. And look at that, a tempo pick from Dr. J. Picks up the Arcane Blast to couple with Azure Drake. LovelyChook's hand is great. I just don't think he's got time to unlock all of this. Emperor Thorsan is a big start, but look at how much damage he's under. He could die if he plays Emperor Thorsan.
12 damage on board. He could freeze 2 of it to bring it down to 10.
What if Dr. J picked up Fireball? You can't have in this instance because you got Fireball in your hand, but...
What if?
But what if?
What if he did anyway? Sometimes you got to ask yourself tough questions.
But sometimes Dr. J's got tough answers. Utilizing the blast right away. This is a multi-turn setup, and LovelyChook is in a lot of trouble.
Again, Emperor Thorsan. If he plays it, he dies to Blackwing Corruptor.
There's not a winning combination of cards in LovelyChook's hand right now. There is so much value from these early drops from Dr. J.
He has to, like, Ice Block and then hope he draws Reno.
It's like a hunter deck. Just beating him up.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the mage. It's like a hunter deck.
Too soon. Those don't help.
No. He is really going to have to rely on Reno. Or maybe in a crazy world, he can buy enough time to get to turn 9, clear the board, and then bring himself back up to 15. But that isn't looking very likely. Most certainly going to see a block pop here.
Well, the pop at 2 and the pop at 1 don't really serve as much difference, but Dr. J did have a way to pop at 1. Tad of a miss sequence in that instance, but it's Reno or bust for LovelyChook at this point. I guess a freeze would actually keep him alive.
Flame Strike could as well. If DrJikininki were to have no extra damage in hand. I mean, looking at the list, he's got, what, Holy Nova and a second Blackwing Corruptor to be able to draw. Also, his Draconid Operative can pick up a little piece of burn, maybe a Frostbolt. There's Holy Nova, if I read that correctly. That is it, and Dr. J puts up the 3. See what I did there?
I did.
Thank you very much. And he's going to tie up the series 3-3.
7. All the marbles now on the line. The season spent getting to the playoffs. The playoffs, getting through, qualifying for this event. Traveling to the event, everything on the line, $250,000 in prizes. One of these two ends it right here.
How fitting for Dr. J to come back.
Watch him when he wins here.
Let's go. He's pumped.
I'd be pumped too.
I'm pumped right now just watching
You're
it.
bringing it back. You were down in the set. One more to go.
And how fitting for him. Last game comes down to his Reno lock. By far his favorite deck. As we've seen throughout the broadcast today, as me and you saw earlier in the week, getting to talk to him a little bit.
Hey, this is a tough matchup for LovelyChook. You know, we saw Shitanu Dachi play this matchup earlier, but he had Pyroblast in his version. He had Inkmaster Solia to get those big burst turns. Here, LovelyChook's burst is very limited. He's got Ragnaros the Fire Lord, whatever he finds from Kabbalah's Tome, and however many fireballs he can get from Archmage Antonidas. Outside of that, it is minion technology. He does have an Alexstrasza, so that's a key one to follow up on Reno Jackson with. But can he get the pressure going to test Dr. J in that spot? For Dr. J, it is a lot about the strong early threats. Mountain Giant, Twilight Drake. Once again, health-efficient threats that really put LovelyChook to the test. Polymorph's one of the key cards in the matchup, so he's got the first one checked. But can he keep up with the card draw from Dr. J?
That's going to be the question. Now, Dr. J, one of the things that a lot of players respected about him was his Reno Warlock play throughout the playoffs. We saw a lot of matches from Dr. J on stream. The players even that had never heard of him before said, wow, this guy's pretty good at Reno Lock. He said he's got good tech choices. He read the meta well. Did he do it here too? A win in Game 7 with Reno Lock right here would be huge for not only that image of him being that Reno Lock player, but also for just getting further in the tournament.
This is a really weird spot.
Don't pick that!
Museum Curator's not bad. It certainly can provide some very strong death rattle effects, but I mean, I can't deny Fireball. That card's just too good.
No comment on my impression, though.
Just leave you hanging out. I'm sorry, TJ. That was me. I won't do that again. I'll issue a public apology.
Appreciate it. Well, the Mountain Giant eats a bitter end. But he'll live to see another damage.
No major threat here from Dr. J, and so LovelyChook has now passed that second test. Can you not die to a giant threat early on? That's the big one. Once he's past that, he has a lot of tools to work with. This is where LovelyChook starts to enter the phase of the game where his removal is starting to unlock. Firelands Portal, a giant tempo swing, strong value card. He's got Forbidden Flame to handle another big threat. He's got a second Fireball potentially lined up. He's got Alexstrasza. Card draw is the missing piece of this puzzle right now.
Like how you've created in your head a checklist for defeating Reno Lock.
I have played against it so many times.
Checklist. Step 1, don't die.
That's a tough one.
Step 2, don't die again. Step 3, get rich. Step 4, kill him.
Yeah, profit comes before the rest of the parts in that.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, thanks, Reno. He's changed the game. There's no more question marks in the middle of that. Step 3 is get rich.
Dr. J, it seems like he's Kazakus picked up, but in this matchup, a lot of times you want that value.
I think his hand's strong enough. He's got Shambler, he's got Rag.
Yeah, but
he's got life tap, he's got damage.
His Mountain Giant got polymorphed, so it got transformed. So that does not go into the pool of minions that died to be brought back by Acre of Undeath.
That's true. Well, the Mountain Giant doesn't anyway. The Sheep, however. It's a very good point. The res is really just not that strong for Dr. J right now. The Resurrect, one of the most valuable options from Kazakus in these slow matchups. You can typically create a much stronger pool of minions to ride on. But I don't think that's available. And now here's the next step. Is it 5 or is it 10?
5 it is. Have we seen a single 10-mana potion today?
You know, I'm not sure I have, actually.
I'm not sure I have either.
2 random demons? This seems like a really bad Kazakus potion.
To be honest, though, his hand is pretty low on minions. This would be one of the rare instances where I might say, you know what? I want some demons, but it's deal 4 damage to all minions and deal 5 damage.
Yeah, going to be tough for LovelyChook to actually stick a lot of threats to the board in that instance. Dr. J is putting together a lot of removal. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing versus LovelyChook. His damage is a lot more limited aside from Kabbalah's Toe, but now he's got Brand Kazakus. So now the card draw has been found for LovelyChook.
It's effectively card draw because you're getting potions.
Extra resources are a big facet for LovelyChook. If he doesn't find them, Dr. J's got a natural engine for extra resources. And he's going to slam the rag. There was no thought to this.
If this doesn't hit Azure Drake, there's a clean removal from LovelyChook with Fireball plus Ping.
But is that what he wants to do? I mean, look at his hand.
Can he take it slow? That's the question. Does he want to ignore this rag for a turn and say, you know what, I'm just going to build a board, get some potions?
Looks like a fireball to me.
Yeah.
That takes LovelyChook's entire turn, though.
But DrJikininki, his Reno Warlock is light on threats. Mountain Giant's been dealt with. Ragnaros, the Fire Lord's been dealt with. What other big stuff does he
Bissell
have?
Enforcer's gone. Kazakus is gone. He's got combo.
Reno's like his biggest minion.
Reno, Twilight Drake, and Emperor Thorson are basically his largest minions left. So this is a bit of a problem. Dr. J has cut Jiraxis from his deck. He anticipated these games ending via attrition to a certain degree. As soon as he finds the window of opportunity, Leroy Jenkins, Power Overwhelming, Faceless Manipulators meant to deliver the final points of damage. He's cut these giant, valuable threats in favor of getting to a safe position to stabilize again. Is LovelyChook just going to simply outvalue him from this stage? Because that's an excellent point you make. There are just no large threats left in Dr. J's deck.
And LovelyChook has the means to go for a value game. Manic Soulcaster was a choice in his deck that we talked about earlier. Archmage Antonitis is another one. Ragnaros the Fire Lord. Alex Draza. He's got threats for days. If he just removes everything off the board,
He's got 2 potions.
stays healthy, finds Ice Block, 2 Kazakus potions.
Well, he's got about 15 seconds left to decide this next potion. So
Summon 2 friendly minions, gauge 7 armor is the 5-mana potion. We'll get a look at the 10-mana potion here in just a few moments. But Dr. J, is he watching his tournament life slip away? There's the 5-mana.
well, that potion is a pretty big payoff at this point now.
Mystic Wool.
TJ's favorite.
Mystic Wool, summon an 8/8 demon.
Dr. J's potion is big here. He's got to think about how to set up the rest of the game, though. His hand is all responsive right now. How does he get the ball rolling?
Looks like he's going to try and put on some pressure. Dirty Rat is found, so maybe Dirty Rat could be a way out for him. If he rips the Dirty Rat, pulls out Reno Jackson, has a way to answer it, finds a little bit more burn damage.
Yeah, no risk here from LovelyChook.
Yeah, he's just going to say, you know what? That play spooked me. I'm playing it safe.
He's so far ahead on resources at this point. The fact that the players have access to the other's deck lists, that they're public at this stage, means that they can craft more specific game plans. Given what LovelyChook's seen so far, he is fairly safe to just continue to kill everything Dr. J plays.
And Dr. J's checklist becomes longer.
A lot longer. Still hasn't found Emperor. No Leroy, no Faceless. He's going to use Power Overwhelming. I don't think he can. I don't think he can afford to.
Yeah, you can see he's really agonizing over this decision. That's a big resource to give up.
His plan here is to use Power Overwhelming and then use Faceless Shambler, but that's a lot of weight that Shambler's going to have to pull.
Had to go for the PO first to empty out his hand a little bit to go for the tap.
I don't know, TJ. With the PO gone, his from-hand burst is now more realistically limited to about 16 in one turn. Leroy, Faceless, Soulfire.
And that's post Emperor Thorsan, which he has not picked up yet.
What to do?
Let's look at LovelyChook's options here. A 10-mana potion, of course, is the infamous Mystic Wool. And summon an 8/8 demon. Mystic Wool, of course, transform all enemy minions into sheep. Or all minions into sheep, rather. In this case, it would be enemy minions. He's just going to go and play Emperor Thorsan. He's okay with leaving that 6 damage minion up for a turn because he understands that he's got a lot of answers remaining.
It is dangerous for LovelyChook to be taking a lot of damage in these instances. But Dr. J, he's not going to get there with threats. He's going to get there with the window of opportunity.
Well, that's going to pull out an Alexstrasza.
That helps Dr. J a lot, too. The window now for Reno Jackson is open whenever he wants to take it. Yeah, that's going to be just a direct attack.
Got to respect the Emperor Thorsan as well. Can't really give that 2 ticks.
Dr. J's got to find a way to start getting some damage through. And frankly, with LovelyChook's hand, I don't know when that's happening.
LovelyChook has not picked up an ice block yet.
Was that Dirty Rat too soon?
I wonder.
Like, he saw Reno Jackson. That's one of the biggest ones he's worried about. Kazakus Brand already took place.
What else are you going to pull out?
Well, if he just Emperor Thorsan's there, he gets to Blast Crystal and push 6 damage. He's got to find damage. He's not going to win this way.
That's a good point.
What to do?
It's a good point. LovelyChook.
And the Mystic Wool is just right. So now he's relying on the Faceless Manipulator to pull more than 6 points of damage. This is another risk that Dr. J is electing to take here.
He's hoping that LovelyChook is just out of stuff. That this idiot's going to stick on the board and keep rolling. He's seen Siphon Soul. He's seen Blast Crystal Potion.
Twisting Nether's the last one. And if Dr. J wants to Twisting Nether away 10 power and 10 health on his own board, I think LovelyChook's totally okay with that.
Yeah. And that resets everything. So that way LovelyChook's free to just play whatever he wants.
Does Dr. J even have another option other than to Twisting Nether this? If he lets this live, that's it.
He could Hellfire Soulfire?
No, that's really bad.
Yeah, because then the Fireball that LovelyChook just picked up from the Archmage Antonidas.
Fireland's Portal, for that matter.
Sure.
LovelyChook's he's had the edge at every single stage. I think Dr. J has... It feels to me like he's floundered a bit this game. Like the plan felt really unrefined, and ever since the Mountain Giant got polymorphed, it's felt like an unplanned sequence of events that's happened.
When I said that, I don't even know if I was serious.
And the Fellfire Potion's gone now, too. That's 5 less damage that Dr. J has long term.
This game just got real.
He's not even going to life tap. He's starting to be concerned with fatigue.
I don't see a way that DrJikininki wins this. LovelyChook's at 25. Dr. J is pretty much out of threats. He's got nothing left. And he's turned down a Tundra Rhino. And he could put another one in his deck.
That's the one for TJ. And now he's got to stare down Tundra Rhino. I love it. 2 friendly minions die this game, 7 armor. Looks like a great development turn to me.
He's had a lot of good stuff die this game.
Yeah, and
Doomsayer's
still in the grip.
Let's take a look. Emperor Thorsan is one of that good stuff.
Oh, no. Well, the good news is that Twisting Nether looks okay here. But I just don't think he's got the gas.
The bad news is that if he taps Twisting Nethers, he's dead. So he's not going to tap.
14 available from hand for LovelyChook this turn.
I mean, you've seen
everything.
Every piece of hard removal possible.
There's actually no way left in Dr. J's deck to kill this.
Leroy Demon Wrath is the only way. And if he Leroy Demon Wrath your Ragnaros, you're like, go ahead. I got another one in my deck because of this Manic Soulcaster.
So Reno going to try to buy some time. Twilight Drake shows it too late. At this stage, Dr. J, he needs some miracles to happen. He's going to need LovelyChook to decide to save burn to try to kill him in one blast. And he's going to need Ragnaros to just hit him in the face a couple times and get a ton of damage from these. But right away, LovelyChook draws his other Ragnaros.
I mean, DrJikininki has to know that this is a lights-out board that LovelyChook has built for himself. His deck just does not have enough to get it done, and LovelyChook has continued to just be patient this game, remove every single threat possible, not get ahead of himself. I love his patience. You talked about how you're looking at the deck list. LovelyChook can count the threats on one hand now, and he's been able to do that for quite a long time.
And I can't find a way to slice this where Dr. J comes out alive. It's not there. LovelyChook is going to kill the remaining minions, isolate Dr. J, and get through for the final points of damage. LovelyChook takes it in a 7-game set to keep his tournament hopes alive.
And that means DrJikininki is the second player of the day to be eliminated. His tournament life has come to an end, but there he is. LovelyChook moves on to live another day in the Winter Championship here in the Bahamas. One last walkout for Dr. J. Couldn't get it done with his favorite deck, but I think he's gained some fans.
It's been a strong ride, though. I mean, it's tough to say you're too down on yourself when you go first HCT event, America's champion, show up to the Bahamas, fall short to one of the most winning players of all time in Hearthstone. I'd still say he's got to be proud of it, but my hat's off to LovelyChook. That was a fantastic set for him.
He does have a tough couple days ahead of him if he wants to keep this going, but standing by on stage, Rachel is joined by LovelyChook.
Thanks so much, guys. LovelyChook, this has been a long, long day. How do you keep your focus through a whole day of Hearthstone like this?
今天比赛时间比较长，然后你是怎样在这么长的一段时间内一直保持着你的注意力和你的竞技水平的？
因为就是比完之后第一场比赛之后，然后还有很长一段时间嘛，然后我就回去就躺了一会儿，然后就是后面的比赛就有精神了。
I just slept a while after the first round of the match, then I feel I'm fully recovered.
Oh, those are those pro strats, taking a nap in between. Very smart. Well, I do want to ask you, too, when you play on this stage, especially considering the fact that 2 Europeans have already made it on in the tournament, do you feel now that you're just playing for yourself, or are you playing for China's representation in this tournament?
在今天比赛当中，已经有2位欧洲选手已经出现了，所以说你在这个舞台上，就是当你在玩的时候，你是觉得你是代表着你自己在打比赛，还是代表着国家在打比赛？中国。
我觉得我是代表自己嘛，因为就是还是放平心态嘛，就太大压力也不好。但是我认为，就其他3位中国选手都是代表中国去准备拿冠军的。
Actually, mainly I will focus on myself because I don't want to give a lot of pressure to myself. But to be honest, I think other 3 China players, they will perform for China.
Absolutely. There is still hope out there. That's a great point, LovelyChook. I'm going to give it back to our casters. Let's see what they have to say about the rest of the day.
It's been a long but a fun day of Hearthstone action here on day 1 of the Winter Championship Admirable. We've got to cast some great match today. It's been fun. Any highlights for you from the day?
Just the fact that we're in international play for the first championship of the year. To me, it's such a spectacle to see all the different regions, the different tech that comes out of it. You can really see the influence from the circles that they're playing in versus what the other regions are doing. And to me, that's something that I'm glad that we have more of this year.
And so far, we're seeing exactly what a lot of people predicted, was that Europe seems to be standing on the top of it all with 2 players moving out of the groups today, Stanu and Nyria. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. World champion Pavel is going to be fighting, as well as a few players from the Americas. Tare, another name that we all have come to know and love. But to cap off the day, give their final thoughts. Send over the boys on the analyst desk. Got all 3 of you up there, Raven, Sottle, and Kibler. What'd you guys think of that one?
Yeah, that was an awesome series overall. You know, a crazy way. I mean, I've kind of lost count of how many matches today have gone all the way to the 7th game. So it's been absolutely crazy, but definitely a lot of fun for us. So we can just give you a summary on the day. As the guys mentioned, it's been a long one, but it's been a great one. So starting off with Group A that really kicked off the day. What really stuck out and went on for you there, Sottle?
Yeah, I think that showdown between Frozen and Stanu there is Stanu coming out victorious, eventually going through in the winner's bracket, but those were 2 of the names I was hoping would clash, you know, right from the start of this tournament. That is, you know, one of the peak players from Europe coming up against one of North America's best. The matchup lived up to the hype, and of course, it was Europe that came out on top eventually.
Of course, indeed. And yeah, you can see the decided match coming up later as well. And Group B, Kibler, what went on there earlier today?
I mean, we saw a lot of great matches. Nyria really impressed with his play, maneuvering a lot of different, fairly complicated decks. He had a little bit of stumble, but it did not stop him from advancing in that group. So looking forward to see who will join him between Pomblet and LovelyChook as well.
Yeah, and that was just today. You know, we've got plenty more matches coming up over the next few days. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing Group C and D in the same format that we did for today for A and B. So we can check out Group C and what we've got coming up tomorrow. I am looking forward to this one. It's going to be World Champion Pavel versus LVGE, and then Dokpon versus Yulsik. 2 great matches, Sol.
Yeah, for sure. Pavel, world champion, of course, entering the fray, but his opponent, LVG, no slouch whatsoever. And then, you know, one of last year's dark horses in Yulsik coming up against one of this year's dark horses in Dokpon.
Yeah, definitely a lot of great stories to be told tomorrow. In Group D, what do you make of this one, Kibler?
Well, I think here, Omega Zero, clearly a major contender from China, coming back from BlizzCon last year in the first match against Samuel Sao. And then Green Sheep versus Tare, 2 players with BlizzCon experience, both of whom kind of flown under the radar despite that experience, given that it was back in 2014.
Yeah, it's definitely some great matches, and, you know, it's going to be good to see 2 more European players qualified through to the quarterfinals tomorrow. I mean, I'm looking forward. Are you confident there's going to be some Americas players going to make it, Kibler?
I'm confident there'll be some players who are not from Europe, at least.
Taking the odds, I see.
What I will add is that let's just be a little bit careful, because rewind to the World Championship at BlizzCon last year. Day 1 ended. NA was piping up big on Twitter about how successful it was going for North America. Eventually, roles reversed and Europe came out on top. So let's not lay everything on the line yet. There is a long way to go. These European players have only made it to single a limb so far, and everything can flip when you get there.
Yeah, and then we can check out some of the stuff that's going to be coming up tomorrow as well. So there's going to be a Journey to Un'Goro card reveal. You can see the times there, 6 a.m. PT and 3 p.m. CEST. That is going to be awesome. I cannot wait. And then we're going to move on and get the rest of the Winter Championships on the way. And we're going to start off with Pavel versus LVGE. That's going to be the first match of the day. I cannot wait. World Champion's going to be playing, and see if he can repeat the performance.
Yeah, huge amount to prove. As TJ and Admirable were saying earlier, Firebat had a great year to follow up, but we haven't had that back-to-back big push at the World Championships itself. Pavel can definitely do that.
Yeah, so it's been an absolutely fantastic day, and we can see some cool clips from today. Any very quick last highlights for you, Kibler?
Man, I just think it was great to see not only the players playing Hearthstone at the highest level, but really emotion in all their faces.
Yeah, so thanks a lot for watching, everyone. We will see you tomorrow.